all of that aggression. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're not wasting any time. We're hopping straight into Champion Select here, and Udyr going to be banned away from the Bangkok Titans yet again today. And 007, he's impressive on that champion. Don't think we're going to see him on that one for the rest of this, as Gragas going to be taken off the board here, and Revolta not going to have that one, and Nunu as well. 007 getting a lot of focus.
And look, 007X was one of those members who in our research had shown that he was a great Nunu player. After that defaulted to Jarvan and was much less convincing on that champion. We wondered, okay, in this Cinderhulk meta, in a tank meta, if you can play Nunu, surely you can transition to something else. But if Sejuani's also taken away,
yeah,
007X just hasn't shown a lot of these tank champions that he's comfortable on. That's why he's the one that's really being sought after. Revolta, he's the carry of this team, the newest member, but we already saw his Lee Sin play. They gave away Gragas, and it seemed like a calculated move because Lee Sin, a very similar champion in terms of early pressure, just ruined his day. And that might be just looking to repeat that result and attack 007X wherever possible.
Yeah, and if Lee Sin has an advantage over Gragas as well, it's that early pressure, and INTZ really playing that one out beautifully. Sivir is going to be the final ban away from Lloyd, which is a bit interesting, of course. Have seen a lot of Graves coming out of Lloyd so far, but Sivir is the one that's going to be taken away here. Bangkok Titans now thinking about their final ban to come through here against INTZ.
Maybe the LeBlanc is worth a consideration.
Well,
Already
yeah,
saw Tokas go off on that champion.
Nope, Jockster is going to lose the Morgana though, and Yang doesn't waste any time, insta-locks that Hecarim.
I mean, it's not the undefeated Hecarim anymore, but 7-1 still very, very impressive. Have seen only a little smattering of Hecarim, though Bangkok Titans, they're the team that has the victory against Hecarim.
Yeah.
Will it once again be the Shen pick for Warlock? Doesn't need to commit to it just yet, but that's what he did quite confidently in their previous game today.
And he certainly locked away Thresh very confidently for Moss there as well, so he's going to put that one down. Of course, they banned away the Gragas this time. Moss not going to be able to pick up that unorthodox support pick, and 007X thinking for a while about what he wants to take potentially into that jungle, or maybe even picking up another lane. It is going to be Sejuani, though. She's been left up. The Bristle Rider being considered, of course, very strong on this patch. 007X, we haven't seen him on it just yet, and Pantheon would be a different one.
Probably not going to be a Pantheon. Sin in some smaller scenes, but probably a little bit too aggressive in this meta. Also, Pantheon into Sejuani would be a really tough matchup. So lock away the Sejuani. You suddenly got pick potential both at level 1 with the Death Sentence and level 6 from the Glacial Prison. So a lot of synergy between the first two picks from Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, and a lot of CC coming through as well as INTZ now to think about their second and third picks coming through here. Revolta is hovering over that Lee Sin, potentially just for some crowd reaction here, because that Lee Sin was terrifying to deal with. Tokas considering the Cassiopeia, and we'll see whether these are going to be locked in. INTZ still with some time here to make their decisions.
It's going to be something early aggression, and honestly, Elise is only more aggressive than the Lee Sin choice. His Lee Sin mechanics are definitely on par, as we saw in the previous game. Obviously been practiced on that champion. Considering the move towards the Elise, that's a champion that the Chiefs have shown, specifically Spooks, has been playing that at a very high level. Honestly, it's a choice of basically anything to go on Piggy hunting season, or he could go completely off the reserve.
Not deciding to, though, and it is going to be a fairly standard Rek'Sai to come through here. And she also very strong in that early game, able to transition late as well. And we'll see whether Revolta is going to go that Warrior enchantment, or whether we are going to have the Cinderhulk Rek'Sai here, as Lloyd wastes no time locking away that Graves, and G4 considering a Yasuo. We'll see what he does decide to go with, as of course INTZ not yet locking away a mid laner. Might be dangerous to blind pick a Yasuo.
I mean, actually flashed Lulu for a second. Surprising that Lulu is available in the 5th round of picks already.
Precisely.
But it seems to be one of the considerations. The Yasuo, not seeing a lot of knock-up synergy, only the Flay from the Thresh coming through. Lloyd's back on the Graves, had one game away, as you can see in the last pick on the Lucian, but has shown so much proficiency on the Graves. We're never going to forget the flash buckshot when he was able to happily use the quick draw. Who needs an animation? Just get in there and kill people, and that's the way he goes with the Graves.
Yeah, flash buckshot, and then he can feel free to use that quick draw for whatever else he feels
He's just conforming to the meta. Remember, quick draw can't be used offensively, so just flash offensively and then quick draw defensively.
Yeah, exactly. And quick draw also, you know, takes a little bit too long. Is Maokai going to be locked away here from Warlock potentially?
Interesting. It's very interesting that he's actually taken the Shen into Hecarim matchup once today. He's done it in the past. Now moves over to Maokai, better in a lane swap situation, but certainly Doesn't necessarily have the same global impact. Of course, not many can with the likes of Stan United to match that ability. But in a 1v1 is going to struggle. It's just interesting to see. It feels like there'll be a time when Hecarim can just disregard the Maokai and split push freely.
Yeah, I'm quite confused about that Maokai pickup myself as well, because Warlock showed so much proficiency on the Shen, and sort of conceding to a Maokai seems interesting, but we'll see how it does work out, whether the Bangkok Titans have a different strategy in mind, as Tokka's thinking about taking away a LeBlanc here, and Joska with an Alistair choice, and that would be very fun, but not deciding to go there. Looks like it will be the Leona locked in, and that is a very high CC INTZ lineup with a lot of early damage coming through from this LeBlanc.
I mean, it's a battle of the mid-game. You got very early mid-game power spike carries like Lucian versus Graves. LeBlanc now go for the most aggressive or most reliably aggressive assassin on patch 5.7. You got the late-game insurance of the Hecarim. Could be a Cinderhulk or a Warrior Rek'Sai. We don't know. One of those errs more towards the mid-game, more towards the late game. But I mean, there's plenty of mid-game power on the likes of Bangkok Titans. The only real strategic hole is who's going to deal with this Hecarim in a split push capacity, in a team fight capacity. They have a lot of CC, but so far only burst damage coming from Graves. How do you choose a high damage champion that lanes well against LeBlanc? That's the question that Bangkok Titans need to lock in, and they've only got 15 seconds to consider it.
Yeah, G4, if anyone can get a whole lot of damage down against LeBlanc, it would be G4, and they're thinking about a Cho'Gath here. That makes their lineup super tanky.
It's super tanky. Maybe you can get over a mid-game hump, but it's not a lot of late-game damage coming out here, Atlas. You got basically burst coming through.
Have you seen a full damage Cho'Gath?
It's burst damage, sure, but the sustained damage. Lloyd has already done incredible things on the Graves. You have to feel like Bangkok Titans are looking for a mid-game snowball to come through to start getting the control over objectives, really start rotating well. Because in the late games, it feels like INTZ, they just have multiple strategic options. 2 split pushes with the likes of the Void Rush coming through from the Rek'Sai. And Bangkok Titans damage so gated around burst that once that burst goes down, if there's a QSS, if the Banshee's Veils come through, it just feels like really going to be ignorable damage from Bangkok Titans.
Yeah, well, we'll see whether they can make it work. Of course, if this massively tanky lineup gets ahead at any stage, you have to think the game is going to become very, very hard there for INTZ, considering the fact that Bangkok Titans can just basically tower dive at will with so much extra tanky statistics. But you're exactly right. They don't look like they have all that much damage moving towards the later stages of the game.
I mean, in terms of game plan here, I think INTZ will do basically flashback to the Besiktas game. You've got LeBlanc and Rek'Sai, such a strong early game dueling or skirmishing duo. Get in the face of Cho'Gath and Sejuani. Sejuani in particular looks like a free kill when you have so much early damage and maneuverability coming through from those two champions. And Cho'Gath, especially in the early levels before he can either build up CDR or a big stack of AP, you just flash away or you dash away from his abilities. They're quite predictable. The Rupture has that cast time. In general, you can out-rotate the Cho'Gath, and sure, LeBlanc doesn't have 1v1 kill pressure on a Cho'Gath most of the time, but that Sejuani in particular already wants to be farming up to 6. Don't give her the chance. Get in her face. Already saw excellent counter jungling against a Gragas. Same thing with the Sejuani.
Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to have a pause moving into this game, so we're going to just chat about the team comps just a little bit more before moving into this one. As you can see, the players getting ready to get onto the Rift. But you're right. Another thing I want to bring up is the fact that, you know, INTZ have focused a lot on that early game, and having Cho'Gath be so immobile there in the mid lane as well really paints a target on his head, you have to think.
I think what I want to see coming through from the Bangkok Titans is the lane swap. Already shown a proficiency in that. Isolate that mid lane matchup, because as we mentioned, the one thing you can say is that Cho'Gath, from level 1, but as the lane goes on, not a lot of kill pressure coming through from the LeBlanc. You can harass him with auto attacks. You can get in his face in early levels. He has to get in melee range. Usually just takes the Vorpal spikes level 1, starts auto attacking to get some stain going. You can really punish him then. But the more health he gets naturally from his ultimate and just his natural itemization. Might be Athene's, might be Rod of Ages, depending on what power spikes he's looking for. Maybe Athene's just to not be opting too much into the late game, a bit more immediate power. Because there's not a lot of kill pressure there, free up the Thresh for roaming. Get the Graves in a good situation to rotate with BF Sword, then looking for the 2v2. It feels like the lane swap, isolate and get the jungle follow just to make the Sejuani a bit more safe. Because if you just go for standard lanes, Revolta's already shown you don't need much introduction to go for open season on invading junglers when he has a skirmish advantage. And Rek'Sai versus Sejuani, it's basically the ideal tier 1 early game jungler versus the tier 1 late game or scaling jungler. Sejuani wants to get scaling up with the likes of the Cinderhulk, build up the health stacking. Going to be much harder when you got Sejuani and LeBlanc right in your face.
Well, we'll see how it works as, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the Rift. INTZ taking on the Bangkok Titans. Our top of the table clash moving forward here, and we'll see whether Bangkok Titans are going to take their first loss here in the International Wildcard Invitational. And so far, looks to be a relatively defensive start for both teams.
And on the other side, INTZ, they want to go 3-1. They would then be the top-ranked team because, of course, they would have a better head-to-head than the only other 3-1 team, which at that point would be the Bangkok Titans. You know, a lot of questions raised after losing their first game on the Rift against the Chiefs. There's a lot to play for both these teams. 4-0, Bangkok Titans realistically will be about 1 win away from having an 100% chance of going through to the knockout stages.
Yeah, and to have that already this sort of early on in the stage is just ridiculous, but we'll see whether they can do it. Sort of the runner-up team to come through from the Southeast Asian region. And they are at the top of the table, looking fantastic, undefeated thus far. We'll see whether INTZ is the team that's going to be able to bring it to them, as Macau and Joska looking to start here on the Krugs. And it is going to be Revolta hanging around the red buff. We'll see whether he's going to tunnel under there and actually start off at those Krugs, or whether he's going for a red start, and we're going to have a slight experience advantage here on the bottom side for our INTZ lineup.
A surprise that does look like standard lanes are going to break out Atlas. They're not going to make the Hecarim accountable for his lack of flash start. Maokai only really going to be able to split farm in that lane. They are going to have a situation where Sejuani can be invaded by LeBlanc if she puts it in, or just by the Rek'Sai, who have a natural skirmish advantage in early levels. To me, it's dangerous to go for the standard lanes. It feels like they play best around the lane swap coming through due to the Bangkok Titans, but they never went for any early invades. We didn't see any early warding, so this is the result. We get purely standard lanes. At least on paper, looks like that does help the Brazilian team here.
Purely standard lanes, but of course the INTZ lineup will have a slight experience advantage. Only a couple of creeps need to be taken before that level 2 is going to be hit, and for a Leona, that is terrifying as things may explode here on the bottom side. There's level 2 Zenith Blade immediately followed up by that stun coming through as Lloyd getting taken down very, very low. Joska, though, nice follow-up damage from the Bangkok Titans. They do answer back nicely.
It's still an optimal trade, though, Atlas. Of course, Leona going to have more potions. They're going in again.
Yeah, that is another Zenith Blade to land. Shield of Daybreak there as well, as Lloyd gets a little bit of damage back, but not too many more times that Joska can do that, running out of the potions.
Yeah, what a crazy punishing lane already from INTZ. Got that quick level 2, not respecting the experience advantage that INTZ had already built up and getting punished. And Revolta, he was all over the map in their game earlier today, and he's peeking around mid to see what he can get done.
Yeah, is going to be answered here by 007X, who also had a lot of presence early, even on the Nunu that he was playing earlier on today. Not necessarily with a whole lot of kill potential, but definitely presenting himself a little bit more than other Sejuanis would. Of course, you go down very, very low on that first clear.
Surprisingly, Rek'Sai hasn't picked up level 3. It hasn't got a blue buff. Can, of course, go over to her own blue buff at this point. Just sneaking around, seeing what's to happen. They just want to get onto this Cho'Gath as quickly as possible.
Yeah, Tokka's actually here in the mid lane looking for the knock-up. There's the flash to come through from G4. There's the Rupture. Doesn't do anything. And first blood to Revolta. And I'm getting a few nostalgic moments here, Papa Smithy.
It's very reminiscent of our first game today when INTZ just completely blew away the enemy. Rek'Sai, the aggressive flash over the Rupture to get the auto attacks and knew the damage. Speaking of damage, nice play though.
Yeah, another Shield of Daybreak to come through as Joska very, very close to that turret. Macau, he's going to get exhausted. He flashes forward. The heal to come through from Lloyd as the Leona left on her own as Moss not with a lot of mana coming down. It is going to be a kill in the top lane and the bottom lane as Lloyd falls. They do answer with the Thresh kill onto Leona, but having a kill on your AD carry and your enemy AD carry dead, definitely going well. And I don't know how Yang picked up that one.
A solo kill on the top lane, of course, has the combat summoner, doesn't have smite, has the ignite. But that's crazy. No kill credit to any junglers. You almost never see that sort of a situation in a 1v1. They opted into the 1v1. We actually have a replay coming through. Just didn't respect the damage potential from the ignite and just straight up died.
Yeah, and the devastating charge easily closes the gap. Not sure what Warlock was thinking there.
There's a 1,000 gold lead at 5 minutes.
Yeah, this is not the team that we saw yesterday, and should have figured that out, of course, witnessing the last game that INTZ played. And man, they are on a roll.
And this is not against any bottom-of-the-table opposition. This is the previously undefeated Bangkok Titans, 3-0.
Still undefeated.
Coming into this, well, not including this game, absolutely. 3-0. So this is formidable opposition at the IWCI, and they're playing with such confidence. It's obviously just reverberating through. They must have had an excellent sleep and pep talk this morning, because they're playing out of their minds aggressive today.
Yeah, I want to know what they had for breakfast. I need to get me some of that. Because, of course, they are looking fantastic. Mikau and Jockster now with a wave pushing towards them here as well, potentially with the ability to at least zone out Lloyd and Moss. Moss only just arriving at the lane.
I can only speculate that INTZ, had a happy chat to Chiefs, because, of course, not going to face that team for a while, and were recommended Wheat Bix, because they've had their Wheat Bix today.
Ah, yes, they most certainly have. Revolta again, another knock-up onto G4. No flash available. Rupture doesn't find anyone as Tockers just waits for the cue and picks himself up another one. And Revolta does this so often and takes a turret shot to take a tunnel.
I mean, that is the ultimate cherry on top, just going for the cheeky tunnel. But Revolta, that's the thing that's unique about these champions.
That was the tunnel bait to come down as well. Distortion over Revolta with the dive, picks himself up another one.
It finds plenty more turret shots, but Revolta, this is the thing that's opened up by a jungler like Rek'Sai with so many flexible, aggressive options. Might as well be Shaco with pathing like that, but another 2 kills. And in the bottom, the trades don't stop.
Yeah, Death Sentence comes through. Mikau, though, ignores the Thresh. Lloyd taking some damage. They are trying to turn it around. Beautiful double play to come through as a piercing light. Not quite enough. The flash from Moss. One more auto attack will do it, and Thresh picks up the kill. Joska now in a lot of trouble. Death Sentence doesn't find the mark. Is Quick Draw going to be there? Lloyd doesn't have it, nor does he have the flash. They are going to pick up the 1 kill, though.
But so important to arrest this massive global momentum that had been going for INTZ, especially in the mid-game. The bonus kill onto Sejuani was just an embarrassing mistake coming through from 007X.
Whoa.
But this is what couldn't have been calculated in all of this. In an isolated 1v1, that's kill pressure. Speaking of kills.
Yeah, G4 now going to get ignored by Revolta yet again as Tockers. This silver platter is so used in the mid lane.
And Hitherto, G4 had been carrying his team. He's this big star player of this lineup, and that's why he's been isolated by Revolta. We thought it was going to be the Sejuani, but Cho'Gath as a melee range champion has been punished, and the Sejuani is not having much fun herself.
Yeah, exactly. That is going to be half health now on the jungler. Yang teleports in here, level 7. There's the ultimate. Gets charged back. Tockers picks up one with the Mimic. Moss and Lloyd, nothing they can do. Tockers really has magnets on the end of his chains as well, as they're going to steal away the blue buff. And this game is just going so far in INTZ's favor at 8 minutes.
And let's take a step back to breathe, Atlas. We just saw a teleport in to contest a blue buff where the Hecarim used the Onslaught of Shadows into 3 members under an inner turret when they haven't even taken the outer turret. It's just complete and utter crazy aggression. It opens up the dragon and the blue buff we've just previously mentioned. G4 can't even enter lane. He's been killed so many times recently. And INTZ have blown away the Bangkok Titans 8 minutes in.
3-0-2 as well for Tockers. This is a terrifying LeBlanc, and if there's a champion that you don't want to get this fed this early on in the game, it is LeBlanc.
And you talk to analysts and they say, if you pick LeBlanc on patch 5.6, patch 5.7, you need to get basically a solo kill to justify the fact that in the late game might struggle. We've seen so many carry LeBlanc performances this tournament, and this LeBlanc 3-0-2, certainly not off our own back, as 2-0-3 is the jungler here. Revolta, after a good night's sleep, is just jungling out of his mind this tournament.
Yeah, going for the warrior enchant here as well, so really wanting to keep up the skirmish and making sure that INTZ are going to have that mid-game power spike with damage that they're looking for.
I mean, surprisingly,
back again. G4 has his flash back up. Revolta is going to bait out the teleport as Warlock comes through. Revolta actually flashing out of the way of that Rupture, really respecting the Bangkok Titans.
It's worth noting, though, that despite the 7-2 kills, despite the fact that it feels like a landslide victory for INTZ already, we can't proclaim anything because the gold lead's not there. And in general, the CS values from Bangkok Titans are keeping them in this game. They're very competitive against an enemy that's winning multiple lanes. The solo lane up top has been the one where Yang has already got a 1v1 kill against the Maokai, but they're staying competitive, and that at least gives them hope coming into the mid game.
Yeah, both of these top laners actually using their teleports at different times in order to try and affect this map and help out their team. In fact, G4 getting saved by Warlock and Yang diving in a turret in the bottom lane for a kill. So both of them successful to different degrees.
Relative success is all we can talk about in this game. Of course, the teleport for no kill credit is on some level a waste of a summoner. Cannot match the teleport from Hecarim, so opens up Dragon Pressure coming soon. Tuckers already has a Snowball Athenes against just a Negatron Cloak from G4, and that's maybe the starkest example of the advantages that INTZ's crazy aggression has opened them up.
Yeah, crazy aggression is not an understatement at all, Papa Smithy. This team really probably the most early aggressive team that we've seen so far. Oh, the culling coming through here. Lloyd tanking that one up, pops the heal as Joska's going to get flayed back.
He still has Flash, so he's thinking about his trademark Flash Buckshot, but doesn't quite have the range.
Yeah, not quite in there just yet as the Bangkok Titans going to continue to push down this bottom lane. And if they manage to take down this turret, that is going to be that gold lead almost evaporated as the Bangkok Titans managing to grip onto this game. But Warlock in a lot of trouble here on the top side. Chains land as it's getting tanked up by the Hecarim. Yang is going to have to move out of the way here as the Ignite's ticking down. Warlock very tanky now with the Bummy Cinder, but Tockers picks up the kill. The last auto attack not going to quite be enough, as in fact the passive is going to tank up the minions. G4's there in the top side as this bottom lane outer turret is going down very, very low. Cho'Gath, though, very slow and not with too much of anything to offer as far as the damage is concerned. And how the hell do you catch up to a LeBlanc who has Distortion, Mimic Distortion, all sorts of good stuff?
I mean, they're catching up in gold, so only 1,300 gold is the difference between these teams with the first global objective in terms of turrets being taken down by Bangkok Titans. They were positioning for a turret dive, and speaking of aggressive positioning, we see Thresh and Sejuani looking for something, but LeBlanc smartly backing away.
Yeah, LeBlanc very, very low, of course, taking up that turret to about single-digit health. G4 now going to get some spare time with this mid-lane outer turret. Revolta coming through just to try and protect that one is going to be successful.
Feels like you just have to play either safe or super aggressive lanes to counter Revolta today on the likes of Lee Sin and the Rek'Sai. Just been preying upon enemy junglers, is picking himself into skirmish advantages, earlier power spikes compared to the Sejuani, and that's why they were happy to ban out junglers and get them, force themselves into a situation where Sejuani was just too tasty an option to pass up and just go around the map, exuding all that early skirmish advantage that the kit provides, and just expertly done. You can see the aggressive mindset. Could have told me he was playing Shaco with some of the turret dives he was putting up. I mean, deceiving over a wall and burrowing through a wall is very, very similar. Just been used to excellent effect by Revolta.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And we've already mentioned the fact that 007 does favor these tank junglers. You may think that this sort of matchup of teams just generally not going in favor here of the Bangkok Titans, and Tockers and Revolta, the gank squad heading towards this top side. Ignite already down. The chains are going to land the snare underneath the turret. Warlock thinks that, you know, this should be a safe location. Tockers again going to tank this one up, and INTZ, they're diving relentlessly. 9-2 now, but Bangkok Titans with a nice rotation down mid. They are going to be able to take down this outer turret, and they do have a stranglehold on these structures on the map so far in the game. They're not stopping.
Well, that's the rotational play they've gone for here, Atlas. Maybe INTZ have got too bloodthirsty because they're not picking up big objectives from their kills. Only the blue buff and dragon to show for their crazy aggression. And 9-2 is negated by the two turrets going down. And it's only 800 gold in what has been the most bloodthirsty game we've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, Moss actually looking for a death sentence over the wall there as Revolta's going to come through and notice that his Raptors are gone. Yang is going to try and eke back that gold advantage that INTZ had from earlier on by taking down the outer turret in the top side of the map. He's going to head back to base, maybe finish that Sheen off as well. May need to, you know, sell one of his consumables that he does have there in his back pocket. Is going to do so, and we'll see what he does buy. Sheen does come through as the combo comes down onto Lloyd. True Grit actually does a whole lot of work during this early stage of the game. And
it's worth knowing that he is going for the Snowball Trinity Force. Should only be a 17, 18-minute Trinity Force. But team fighting is still relatively difficult, not because of the item purchases from Bangkok Titans, because of the natural tankiness. All their build paths and stats are around tankiness outside of perhaps the Graves. Even the Cho'Gath, of course, gets that health from the feast stacks. They're all pretty tanky, so the Hecarim, if he can't land the perfect ultimate, might be picked off early. It's a warrior enchant coming through from the Rek'Sai. It's still very quick in starting up the dragon. Sejuani on the other side of the map, so it should be completely uncontested.
Yeah, INTZ grab Dragon number 2 here at 15 minutes into the game. Macau throwing out an Ardent Blaze. They're not going to find anyone. And INTZ looking for the 4-man dive here on the Titans here on the bottom side. Moss is not going to have any of it, but he is going to get solar flared. There's the culling, blocked by the minion wave. Descent onto Joska. Pretty tanky with the Eclipse up, though, and they're not going to find any kills here. Teleport into the top side. Warlock not able to take down that turret, but denies a cannon creep, which is definitely important.
It still forces a defensive turret. It's a defensive teleport. They will pick up this bot lane turret eventually, no, actually imminently in this case to tie up the turret advantage that Bangkok Titans had opened up. They're still pushing aggressively in mid, but Cho'Gath and Sejuani can only do so much turret work.
Yeah, they are going to get half of that as Revolta's coming through. Arctic Assault is going to get 007X out of this one. Revolta flashing forward, actually, as the Prey Seeker doesn't find anything, but 007X taking so much damage. Ignite's going to tick down, and Joska picks up the kill. G4, he's chained up. Revolta, though, is going to get collaterally damaged, and Joska's now the focus. Lloyd gets exploded from the backside as Yang comes over with the ultimate. Moss puts down the box, trying to stay alive as Tockers is looking for this kill. Another chain. This guy has not missed one on LeBlanc so far this game as G4 is getting hunted by a Leona. And that is frightening as Macau going to come through with some damage here on the backside. Warlock teleporting in. G4 is going to fall. And Warlock says, like hell, I am coming into that lane. That
was a really curious lack of teleport coming through from Warlock. Had that cooldown available the whole fight. Didn't have the best vision options to teleport onto. Would have been a bit of a walk, but then why try to teleport when they're diving? And now we're getting punished again.
Yeah, and Revolta with that Void Rush able to make it towards this top side of the map, and Warlock thinking, oh, I managed to take the turret, this is great, but the jungler 1v1ing the top lane, and Warlock completely out of mana, and Revolta with the Q, oh, hopefully he's going to be able to get that one. Prey Seeker not going to do enough work as 007X is here. Man, Warlock was so lucky to escape that one.
But, I mean, he just needed to rotate earlier. The world's longest team fight happened, never found a spot to teleport, then basically gave away his teleport for free. Another advantage coming through. Big mistakes from Warlock. He should be good at rotating. He was just on Shen. He should be looking at this mini-map. Obviously didn't see any sort of chance to go in, but so punished were Bangkok Titans for his lack of rotation.
Yeah, and INTZ, one thing that you have to say is that CS scores are not all that high, and Lloyd looking like a massive winner here on this map as far as that creep score is concerned. Does have the makings of both the Ghostblade and Infinity Edge. And let's have a look at the replay here as Revolta flashes in.
So remember, Maokai never found a spot to teleport into. You can say, looking at this minimap, there was the aggressive ward next to the inner mid turret that he could have teleported onto at any point. Probably didn't expect the first kill and the effective re-engage, but Hecarim finds a spot, gets the pick. Maokai still hasn't teleported. At this point, it's a very outnumbered fight, but there was plenty of spots previously that he could have looked to teleport. Again, you're against a team that has both the Rek'Sai and the LeBlanc in these early levels. So much pick pressure that Maokai negates a lot of that, can give the Vengeful Maelstrom for effective tankiness for his team, but just never did a Warlock rotate.
Yeah, we'll see whether he does manage to pick that one up. And like you mentioned, I mean, the Shen point is a massive one here because as soon as you're a Shen player, you are known for keeping your eyes glued to that minimap, and may have just been in the communication coming through from Bangkok Titans. They may have thought, okay, we don't need the teleport here, we will be able to make it out, and then said, a little bit too late, Warlock, we need you, you better come in and not take down that top outer turret.
The only thing I can speculate is that maybe they were surprised, because of course Graves got a snipe over the wall under the Dragon Pit. They didn't expect the Hecarim coming in, but once Hecarim committed to the teleport, got the instant burst kill on the Graves, the fight was lost at that point. So perhaps it was just a lack of communication, but they absolutely lost the maximum as they're looking for more kills.
Yeah, Solarflare's going to tag 007 as he's heading through that brush, but they're not going to find anything there. Joska, the rotation towards the mid lane. G4 going to head bottom lane just to try and protect this inner turret as Yang, with a lot of pressure now that this Trinity Force has been completed. 205 Hecarim. 20 minutes with the Merc Treads and the Trinity Force completed. That is so scary.
So we're learning more and more about INTZ as a team, Atlas, just seeing them in these games. We can definitely say that when they're ahead, you just get no resource. They completely take you out of any options of taking even your own Raptors. Your side of the jungle is their jungle. Revolta completely owns the jungle, and Sejuani awkwardly wants to scale up, scales so well with health, already has the Cinderhawk is looking to pile on health to even get damage scaling from the Northern Winds, but there's no resources on this map for Bangkok Titans to reach for, just because there's nothing on the map.
Yeah, and Macau actually trading with Lloyd here does run out of mana, as he has the Infinity Edge, was looking for some crits. Oh, Yang comes around for the flank. There's the Ignite with the fadeaway. Picks up the kill.
Doesn't even have to commit the ultimate.
Yeah, and meanwhile, on the backside, it's going to be LeBlanc picking up the support player, Moss. Nothing he could do to the burst damage, as Macau does have a bit of his mana back now. Joska, oh my goodness, the Wombo combo comes through, and Macau just gets destroyed. Revolta tries to run away, has no idea what just happened as Tockers lands another chain. No surprises there. There's the Mimicked one as well. Gonna stop 007 from coming through, but cannot dodge away from the Rupture. There's the ultimate to come down. I believe the Rupture, sorry, to come through, and Tockers can't escape as Revolta looks to try and back. G4 coming through here as he's not going anywhere, and G4 picks up the kill. Yang just heads back down towards that bottom side. He's going to be able to take down the inner turret. But Bangkok Titans, that was exactly the team fight that they needed.
And especially because they were getting huge bounties. LeBlanc giving 500 gold away. The levels that had already come through from all the skirmishing previously being equalized to a large degree. And the gold lead once again gets a little bit lower. Bangkok Titans hoping to pick up the dragon. The Sejuani is rotating. It's only Yang. Of course, this is not a teleport smite Hecarim, but looking for the optimistic steal.
Yeah, they're going for it, of course. Ward in the back of the pit here for INTZ. Look at that devastating charge. So much damage. The ult a little bit whipped there, but piercing light goes straight through Lloyd, and he's going to die. 007 now over the wall, burning down. He's going to survive this one for now, as Warlock completely out of mana. He's the focus by INTZ. Death sentence doesn't quite land there, as the Eid is going to, most definitely, by Joska. Zenith Blade going to come through there, and that's going to lock that kill down. Yeah,
they're looking for more people. Thresh is trying to run away, but Moss is caught between lots and lots of enemies.
Yeah, Death Sentence going to come through, but there's the Zenith Blade yet again. Joska going to be flayed back. Yang just takes a drive-by past the inner turret. G4 not going to find anything, and INTZ are just playing with their food this game.
INTZ just have so much mobility, and that's the big issue here, is that you mentioned the fact of, will the immobile Cho'Gath be punished? And he's been punished from, what, level 2, level 3?
No end.
The game is being played around a mid lane Cho'Gath as if he was a Nasus farming happily in the top lane. He's the mid laner, but with his not unreliable skill shots, with his lack of mobility, he's just been able to contribute basically nothing apart from that sick wombo a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, and of course, when you do have Glacial Prison and Rupture available, I mean, that's a lot of CC to come through, not to mention the fact that you can Feral Scream onto them as well for all of that silence, plus the burst damage, which when you do have the makings of either
how many times can you recreate that sick wombo? It came off, it was great. They got 4 kills, they got bounties. It's just in these more unorganized skirmishes, when they've already got a ward disadvantage, when the minion waves are being consistently well prepped, and this is INTZ, who even in their loss against the Chiefs had excellent side wave control. You wonder how many times can they line up those amazing wombos, as Yang wants to get the kill onto the Graves. You can see his mindset. He's already confident enough to go for these things, but when you've got those items, and those items are completely...
Goodness, that's absurd.
At 23 minutes, that's an absurd amount of gold for a Hecarim.
Yeah, that's out of control. I didn't even notice that. Was that an outright Frozen Heart purchase?
The scary thing is, yes.
Oh my goodness, that is so frightening. As Revolta's going to steal away the red buff here as well. Look, they own this jungle. They've got so many wards.
Just look at the items, though. It's Infinity Edge, Static Shift Boots 2 against a Youmuu's Ghostblade. Basically an emergency Youmuu's coming through from Lloyd once he committed to the Brutalizer. They're trying to clear waves. Look, they'll keep this turret up, but for how long with how smart INTZ's rotations have been? Huge minion wave pushing in bot. Yang pushing mid. He's already got the Trinity Force, and they'll just keep pushing in at every opportunity.
Yeah, and this pony loves running past these towers as Joska takes so much damage, gets eaten by G4. Bangkok Titans picking up a kill for themselves.
It doesn't even relieve pressure.
Yeah, it doesn't, as the inner turret's going to fall down in the mid lane. Yang taking a bit of damage. Here's Warlock, very, very tanky. Lloyd, though, is going to get exploded Revolta picks up credit for that kill. 4, 2, and 6 now on the Rek'Sai. Warlock and 007X did manage to at least stem the aggression here in the mid side as Revolta's going to clear out some vision. Might need to hightail it out of there as the chain's going to land again. Moss burning down. He's going to die. G4 going to get knocked up by that Umbaro. Tokka's looking for his cooldowns to come back off cooldown. My goodness, G4 with a beautiful flash there to come through as Yang is going to close the gap onto the Cho'Gath. Warlock going to get rampaged on as well, and 007X wants to join his friends in the death chamber as the ace comes through for a couple of seconds. Graves does respawn, but man, INTZ just tearing this map apart.
Yeah, it took INTZ a day of rest, but they've finally woken up to be the top team they've been claimed to be, and they're not done.
Yeah, there's the flash into the Umbaro again. Graves, what? That was silly, the burst damage coming through.
And that's a Warrior Enchant Rek'Sai. All the other sources of damage. Going to get hooked there, but Moss, you're just giving him a gap closer as the damage continues.
Yeah, that was a death sentence on the wrong side of the death sentence, if that makes sense. Of course, sentencing himself to a little bit of death there. They're going to lose the inhibitor, and Moss in the end is going to survive after not deciding to pursue that hook.
And I guess the only thing we can take away, the only trend we can see, if we compare the loss they suffered against the Chiefs to the future games, you could say maybe it's the fatigue, but let's look at the more tangible thing. Whenever Revolta takes over a game, the game just never goes poorly for INTZ. They get so far ahead when their jungler's ahead. When their jungler's able to play the invasion game, go for those turret dives, they synergize so well with them, play so aggressively, and it seems to suit their style much more. Spooks was on top of the jungle matchup. Revolta fell behind. In this situation, though, in every subsequent game, Revolta has completely run the map and both sides of the map.
Yeah, it's just been so frightening, and all of these early game junglers that he's been playing, seems like a lot of players have forgotten how to play against them as 007X, he's going to get caught out. G4 as well going to get chained up by Tokka's here, who throws out the sigil, trying to chase after the Cho'Gath. Sort of incidentally, 007X is going to fall down as Yang is going to head towards this mid lane.
That's not your base, Tokka's.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure whether that's correct, Papa Smithy.
It's not their jungle, that's for sure, but you feel like it's only a couple of moments till even their own base is being completely run by INTZ as they've just strangled them out of the game. We said that in every single game subsequent to Chiefs. But when they get going, when they're ahead, this INTZ team look world-class.
Yeah, this is a hostile takeover of this game, if ever I've seen one. INTZ just really tearing this one apart. Bangkok Titans almost look like they have no idea what's happened to them this game.
But this is no resources to pick up. They almost need an inhibitor to fall, or another inhibitor to fall, because of course the top lane inhibitor's already fallen. They've already broken the base. But those super minions are the only resource they have apart from passive gold coming through at this point. They're hoping for the game to be prolonged. But everyone that steps or dares to step outside the base gates is being punished.
Yeah, and Revolta taking the most unnecessary Rift Scuttler I have ever seen in my life.
Need a bit of vision around that dragon.
Yeah, that's... Look, you can see all 5 members because you're sitting in their base. Don't think you need much vision, Papa Smithy.
And look, if they need another win condition, both Dragon and Baron looking pretty free for INTZ.
Yeah, that's true. Revolta now going to clear out some vision around the Baron. That is an idea that I can get amongst. Is Macau going to destroy those Raptors? Yang actually pops the E as Lloyd flashes out of the way of the chain, so he's going to survive this one for now. Rupture not going to find anyone as Tokka's is doing despicable damage.
I mean, basically everyone on the INTZ lineup is an item at minimum up over their opponent. They're already 11,000 gold ahead at 28 minutes. We've seen bigger leads, but this game had a massive lead, but not one in terms of gold Atlas. But remember, the gold was quite competitive when it was 7-2, when it was 9-2. It's 25-8. That's almost a killer minute for INTZ.
It's revolting. G4 now is getting closed in upon the box comes through, but Yang ignores it. Lloyd getting torn apart. You wouldn't believe that that was, in fact, an exhausted Hecarim and that there was a collateral damage coming through. There is 007. He's getting the focus. Tokka's looking for Moss, a squishy target for him to eliminate. Warlock, once again, just watching as his team falls down. Not a lot he can do about it here, as well as he's trying to fight super minions. And instead, just going to waltz into the base and take this one out. Tokka's just flashing around for the fun of it as INTZ They're going to be able to clear out these Nexus turrets and take the game, and man, this Brazilian team is looking so frightening.
Against the previously 3-0 Bangkok Titans, they've been completely blown away by INTZ. And honestly, Atlas, I feel like the other team's going to be pretty angry at the Chiefs because they seem to have just angered the beast that is the INTZ.
Yeah.
One game, one victory, the loss that came through for INTZ. We were wondering, okay, maybe the hype wasn't justified, but man, when they get going at the start, enemy teams have to cower and fear in their own base about 10 minutes in because Revolta and friends just run this map.
Yeah, and Tokkers, it seems to me like he has, I don't know, given Revolta something in the past and Revolta owes him super big. Because this guy has been camping that lane and getting so much work done in the early stages, and every single mid laner that Tokkers plays seems to get so far ahead that he can't do anything. That was something that didn't happen in the Chiefs game because, of course, he always found spooks there. That's exactly what they do.
And he's been exclusively picking those champions that can skirmish and can path so creatively around those minion waves and mid lane in general. Whether it's the Lee Sin, whether it's the Rek'Sai, you can get so aggressive. We saw pseudo turret dives coming out as early as 5-6 minutes into the game. Once they got open up to that burrow, just never left mid. And the Cho'Gath died, what, 3 times in the first 8-9 minutes? It was crazy.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. And, of course, you can't mention the fact that there's an immortal Hecarim that was doing drive-bys by inner turrets at about 7 minutes into the game,
and
multiple times.
Solo killed the Maokai. That was the funny thing, is that you could forgive the other lanes because Revolta visited mid. There was some action in the bottom lane. But in a 1v1, it's unforgivable to die to a Hecarim in lane in a tank battle, you have to say. Just didn't respect the ignite. Almost seemed surprised that he got ignited. Flashed away and died to the devastating charge. That was poor play from the top laner Warlock, who had been so consistent on the likes of Shen. And the Maokai pick, we kind of scratched our head and thought, okay, why not the Shen? Why not go for something that can at least hope to have the same global impact? Not in terms of burst damage, but in terms of just, trying to push up the wave, dispatched a Hecarim already on Shen earlier today, and then have to stand united for the ultimate equalizer, 850 damage. That's a couple of Trinity Force procs from a Hecarim, so that's at least something you could provide. But unfortunately, the Maokai was blown away in a 1v1 sense, and just in general, they've now got that claim. They're now top of the table in the IWCI.
Yeah, and just a massive sort of show of why they were so feared heading through here as well. And we're going to have a replay. Let's just demonstrate the Brazilians' prowess in the aggressive portion of the game.
This is right towards the end. You can see already 19-8, already 3 dragons, already 7,000 gold lead. We're going to start pushing towards 10,000 gold lead with this particular fight. If you look at the minimap, Lucian and Hecarim have been pressuring the bottom side of the map, so they're not necessarily grouped. But the picks are going to come aplenty in this particular skirmish. We'll roll the tape. So Revolta already very aggressive. This is another one of those cases where Cho'Gath slowly rotating to top lane. He's already going to find Moss picked away, and they just don't stop their aggression at any point. There's multiple members of Bangkok Titans rotating first. Tokkers is definitely zoned out of this fight, but still is able to come in aggressively. Hecarim's got the Trinity Force and the Frozen Heart. Those rampages coming off cooldown, so are the Trinity Force procs. And they just fight as a team. Even if they don't rotate first, they get the damage and they call targets well. Tokker's able to provide a lot of impact despite being on, what, 200 health for the majority of that fight. They team fight well, and they team fight so aggressively.
Yeah, and Tokkers ended up that game on, what, about 8-1-9, really frightening score. And it's all about Revolta being able to be anywhere he needs to. And you have to think that a lot of these teams are looking at the jungle here of our Brazilian lineup and saying, okay, we need to find a way to shut down Revolta. And I can't actually help them because I have absolutely no idea how you're going to do that. This guy seems to always be exactly where he needs to.
I mean, the only suggestion that I could have in terms of a draft phase is just save your jungle pick for later. Don't commit to the Sejuani and open up the plethora of options you have to go more aggressive. Or just go super aggressive yourself. Lock in Elise, lock in Lee Sin and say, okay, 2 can play at the aggressive jungler game. But even if the enemy jungler here coming through 007X, let's assume he was actually a skirmish jungler player, because of course famously is more of a tank role player, more of a Nunu player. Even if he was an aggressive jungler like someone like Spooks, if you lock in the likes of Sejuani, if you get out skirmished in these situations, there's just nothing you can do when you have the Sejuani locked in. At least if you're optimistic and go for the early pressure, you can try to match, you can try to counter game, you try to use your communication options. In these situations, though, where you lock in Sejuani, had his choice of aggression and used it so beautifully.
Yeah, and do you think that, say the Chiefs, they do have a little bit more of an early jungling style. They have access to the Elise here as well that Spooks does like to pick up. Do you think a lot of these other teams might need to be looking at more of these sort of early stage junglers in order to combat this? Is it sort of you have to fight fire with fire in this circumstance, or can you sort of opt for a different playstyle and work on it that way?
I think the jungle follow that we were talking about, the 2v1, would have opened up more of these options. We already noted that with the Maokai, forcing the Hecarim into a 1v2, forcing a jungle follow where they actually had CC in lanes. Maokai obviously level 2, a very strong ganking force with 2 types of CC. Maybe that can negate the natural advantage that Revolta had. And if you look over at someone like LGD, who will be fighting in the finals of the LPL on this weekend, he moved with the meta, moved towards tank champions, and they could neutralize a lot of damage threats just because they rotate around it, they ward very well, they communicate very well, and that's the issue, but I think we have an interview.
You beat the 2 favorite teams in a row. Can we say that INTZ is now a favorite for this tournament?
Yeah, I think we are. Yesterday we were supposed to show that, but since we were very tired from the trip and we had to do some stuff with Riot, we couldn't show it. So now I think I can say yes.
So you are focusing in the mid lane for your ganks. Is it a LeBlanc-related strategy, or is that a general strategy for your team?
We stopped doing that actually on later games, but when we started playing the league in Brazil, we used to do that all the time, and now we are trying it again, and it's working very nicely. So yeah.
Okay, so is there anything you want to say to your fans, to your supporters?
I just want to say sorry for yesterday because we didn't show how we play. We are very tired. I'm sorry, and continue supporting. We will make you proud. Thanks.
Thank you for the interview. Now we're back to Khan.
And yeah, I think he's definitely started making them proud now. The performance here of INTZ so far, today especially, has been so impressive.
They've woken up the sleeping bear, Atlas. That was the analogy I brought up, and that's the only way we can confirm it, because INTZ have blown away 3 teams consecutively.
Yeah, terrifying. But ladies and gentlemen, we still have more International Wildcard Invitational to come. We're going to have a short break, but we'll be back with the next game very soon.